Hi, I'm Rohan Poddar. I'm a visual storyteller for social good brands, and I run a blog called Creative Freelancer. It's a place for ideas, insights, and storytelling for real social entrepreneurship. Today, I have with me Afshan Khan. She's the co-founder of PurpleImpression. It's an ethical fashion brand that works with women artisans in Pakistan. We had done a story on her for the blog in mid-February where we talked about her personal journey on setting up Purple Impression. So go check it out on the blog. Um, Hi, Afshan, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Rohan.
Thank you for joining. So I'm in Mumbai. Afshan is in California, San Francisco, right?
Right, in the Bay
Yeah.
Area.
And so we are talking live. And thank you, Afshan, for making time. I remember in one of our chats last time you mentioned about issues related to transparency in fashion industry. Would you like to shed some light on that?
Sure, right. So transparency in the fashion industry, I mean, there's a lack of transparency in the fashion industry currently, right? And one of the things that happened in the past was obviously the Rana Plaza incident that happened back in 2013. This happened in Bangladesh, factory collapse, took the lives of over 1,000 people. And I think that was like a wake up call for the fashion industry in general of what is going on behind the scenes. So that exposed a lot of the, I guess, the ugly truth to what's going on. And the problem is that a lot of these big, fast fashion retailers have
Mhm.
lack of transparency. Oftentimes, they don't even know the factories they're working with, or they don't know where the sourcing is coming from because they're these huge corporations with these huge orders, and they're just making the calls behind the desk, and they don't take the time to research of well whether the factory that they're working with is operating under the right kind of safety regulations. And it's a very very unregulated area until up until now. A lot needs to be done. Um, and so comes incidents like Rana Plaza, where it could have been prevented, um, were there safety measures in place, right? And it was bad PR for a lot of the brands that were producing in those factories, right?
There are some
Um,
really brands involved there. I mean, this factory that we are talking about in Bangladesh, it made products for some really big brands in fashion industry.
it did. One of the fast fashion retailers like H&M and others, it was producing garments for them, right? I think at some point Walmart was involved too, but a lot of different big, huge retailers were involved. Getting their products done from Bangladesh. Now, Bangladesh is an economy that heavily relies on the garment industry, right? But unfortunately, there's no regulation in place, right?
Mhm.
Consumers want things at a certain price. There's a lot of competition. These big fashion brands, they go to countries like Bangladesh and they're like, okay, we need a $3 product or a $2 product. How do you think that's going to happen? The very business model is sort of the profit driven factor is exploitation of this labor. It's been going on for a while now, but I think this incident really brought it out and put it out in the public. One transparency is going to do is it's going to put pressure on the brands, on these retailers to actually go back and research, right? Go back and look into the supply chain. And when consumers demand this kind of transparency, it's going to keep the brands and these retailers accountable, right?
Right.
Oftentimes they don't want to do that. There might be competitive advantage to it, or whatever else other things that they don't want to expose because they feel like they don't want to let their business secrets out. But the other thing is also they don't want to find out the ugly truth, right? What is hidden, what is not in front of you is not going to bother you, right?
Right.
But that needs to happen because only when that is going to happen, we're going to prevent more cases like Rana Plaza.
Right. Right. That's just a shame to know that some of the big brands in fashion industry are actually ignorant about where the production is taking place and if there are some standards. And I think this is where ethical fashion comes into play, right? Um, what do you think? How would you distinguish ethical fashion from your normal big retail fashion?
Well, ethical fashion takes into consideration the entire supply chain. It takes into consideration how people were treated during the process, how the planet was treated during the process, and also the kind of materials that we're using after it's being produced. Is it going to biodegrade? Or is it going to pollute the earth further? So it takes into consideration all of these three aspects. Now, I do understand that it's fairly easy for maybe smaller retailers and smaller artisanal brands to be more transparent, but it's harder for the bigger companies to do so. But it's not impossible,
Right.
right? And I think when consumers demand that kind of transparency, there's only about 16% of big fast fashion retailers that actually do go ahead and they put out a list of companies and give out their sourcing, but the rest are still not doing it, right? And that's where ethical fashion comes into play. That's where the whole movement comes into play. There has been a whole movement around it called the fashion revolution that started after Rana Plaza. The group of people that were deeply troubled by what was going on, and they wanted to make a difference. And I think there's a lot of, I mean, it's not just like a black and white thing, right? There's a lot of players, there's a lot of things going on. Governments need to get involved. There needs to be policies in place. But the thing is, with these bigger retailers, they have, I mean, the quantity is huge. Their scale is huge, and they have that kind of an influence where they can influence these factories that they work with directly. They can
Right.
influence their practices directly, and it's not going to make that great of a difference when it comes to pricing. Prices is not going to change that much. It's just going to be like maybe $1, $2, perhaps in your retail world. So the consumers are not really going to feel the pressure of that.
Talking about purple impression in this context, uh, how do you take care of this? Some of these things like the people, the process at purple impression. Is there a particular set of standards that you conform to, like some kind of ethical or fair trade certification, or some kind, or do you have you applied for B Corp or something? How do you just like in brief, how do you conform to these standards to make sure that purple impression is doing its bit to treat people fairly, to bring out fair products in the market?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it was definitely a challenge for us, right? Because, like I said, that there's not enough regulation in the industry. There's not enough studies done. There's not, I mean, even within Pakistan, there isn't like proper studies in place to tell you what a fair wage looks like, or what a living wage rather looks like, right? They might have fair wage, but living wage might be completely different because of inflation, other factors that come into play. So we had to literally travel, be on the grounds over there, and really ourselves try to figure out what fair wage would look like for these women. And right from the get-go, we were emerald on the fact that we want to pay these women fairly, and we want to be as transparent as we can. One of the reasons we wanted to be transparent was not only just to get this, to get the story out, but also to keep ourselves accountable too, right? It's a way to keep
Right.
yourself accountable, right? When you are promising your consumer that kind of transparency, then you're keeping yourself in check too, in a way. And as you grow, you want to kind of maintain that and go with it. And secondly, you don't one of the things about sustainability is producing products with good quality, high quality, and that are lasting, that are not just disposable pieces. So what we are trying to do is kind of create connection between people and their clothing, right? When there's a story, there's a meaning behind it, and when there's a story and meaning behind it, you're most likely not to dispose that item off just as any other disposable item. Then it has a purpose in your wardrobe. So that's really something that we're trying to create.
Each of your products has a label of the woman who produced it, right?
Yeah. So we try to send out a hand signed card by the woman who's produced it, and we try to with each product, her picture is there, her name is there on the website, so people can actually go back and see. Okay, there's a face, there's a person behind this. It's just not some machines throwing out some stuff. There are actually people working behind making your clothes.
But it's like but what you're doing has some a complex matrix of challenges. I mean, of course, you have to run a fashion brand, so you have to make profits. But
Right.
again, you also need to create social impact that's tangible for these women, right? Which then again gets into the domain of socio-cultural aspects where you have some challenges to fight. Typically, does it don't do these two things clash? You have to kind of make sure you're making profits and make sure you're making impact. How do you kind of balance this?
So if I understand your question correctly, you're trying to ask me if creating a value for these women, but at the same time making profits as well,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Right. So what we try to do is we try to cap our profits, right? We try to cap our margin and then make sure that the women are getting paid fairly. We're not trying to keep ourselves in check and not being too greedy with the profits, and that's what we do. And then what we're trying to do right now is also put in a giving back program into some of our products, where we would actually give back to certain charities. That's something that's kind of in the talks right now. What we're trying to do this year. Hopefully, by the end of the year, we'll launch some products that where we will actually then even give back even the profits back into the community, a portion of the profits back into the community.
So Afshan, when you scale up, right? You might want to go to other developing countries, work with women in other developing countries, maybe in Africa, in India, or anywhere else, and your volume of business will grow.
Mhm.
Your sales will grow. Now, that scaling up, won't that pose the same problems to you as it does to some big fashion retailers? And how would you escape and maintain the spirit of your business?
Right, right. That's actually an excellent question, because that is a problem. Definitely is a problem. I mean, that's something I'm facing right now when I'm trying to produce my own fabric. But what I did ensure was I traveled, and I searched out for factories that actually had a fair trade certification. I checked the factories. I traveled myself, checked them out, and so I'm working with products now that are not only organic certified, but they're also fair trade certified. Us as a company, we're too small right now, and we haven't had the chance to apply for a fair trade certification, but that's certainly something that we're looking for in the future, right? Because you want to be able to give consumers some kind of a surety of like, okay, we're not just talk, right? And additionally, if a consumer wants to find out more, they can get in touch. And we're fairly transparent about how much we pay our women to if they want to send out questions and get answered by the women, we do that. We ran sort of a campaign during one of my trips where we invited people to come in and ask us any questions that they wanted the women to answer. And then I traveled and I had the women on camera answering those questions for the consumers. So really trying to create that two-way dialogue, right?
Right, right. So basically, what you're trying to do is create a direct connect between women who are the producers and the
Right.
consumers. You think the consumers are equally aware of what you're doing, or you think maybe ethical fashion brand like you needs more marketing?
I think we need more education, right? More awareness.
Mm.
First of all, ever before being a brand, we see ourselves as being activists first, right? We want to educate the public of why this is important, why this is making a difference, right? A lot of us may doubt, right? Like, how is this really making an impact? But when you're creating that connection, when you're putting out the stories of these women, you are showing the consumer exactly how their purchase is making an impact on somebody's life. So here's this product you bought from this lady, and here she's sending her kids to school, so this is what she did with the money. Or here's this product that you bought from us, and here's this woman able to afford a walking stick for her daughter because she's disabled. So that direct connection is what we're trying to create. But there is a lack of awareness, definitely a lack of awareness. And further to that, just going back to your earlier question too, I think governments at some point need to get involved, and they need to regulate this industry a little bit more. This cannot be done only by small retailers or just brands.
Right, 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 right. Okay, so and I'm shifting gears a bit here. Uh, Being a woman entrepreneur, uh, has that thrown some challenges in establishing, or sometimes you think it would have been easier for you had you been a male entrepreneur, or the business world doesn't really distinguish that way.
There certainly is a distinction, right? Especially when it comes to trying to raise funds, right? You're not taken as seriously. I've been lucky enough that we haven't really done any kind of funding runs for our company. We've been kind of doing it on our own with our savings and growing naturally, if you will. But I see that happening. Secondly, when I traveled and I was going to Pakistan to work in Pakistan, I just noticed that I wasn't taken seriously by some of the male people that I was dealing with over there. They just, I walked into a market and they just wouldn't show me the fabric or whatever because they're like, what are you doing? And like, you need to go in the retail store. Like, why are you here? And I had to like carry like a male person with me so I could be taken seriously and they would actually talk to me and consider, so, that was a small thing, but I think I've been privileged and lucky in a way. Um, just having access um, to a better environment. But I do see there is a lot of challenges for women when they're trying to raise funds or being taken seriously. But I also see that a lot of women entrepreneurs are in the realm of making social change. So just in
Right.
this whole, I guess it's a natural thing for women to go towards a path where there's social change than anything else. So you would obviously see more women in this realm than you would see men. Like a lot of curators and other brands that we work with, they're all women run, surprisingly. But yeah, I think it's women who are going to drive the change, especially in this fashion industry.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Afshan, any words for a budding woman entrepreneur? Final words that anything that you have gained out of your own personal experience that you would like to advise or uh, tell women entrepreneurs.
Well, I would like to say that don't let anything hold you back. There's always doubts when you're doing, when you're taking that first step and when you're trying to go towards something like this, there's always doubts. But don't let that hold you back. Don't let your fear hold you back. Always remember that if you're not going to give it a try, you'll never know. And believe me, the reward of when something works out and you see the fruits of it coming back, all of the pain that you've gone through, all of the doubts that you've gone through, they're just worth it. So, yeah, I
Right.
mean, go do your thing.
Being persistent. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. So, Afshan, thanks for taking time and speaking to me, uh, uh, and uh, uh, and being candid about things that we discussed. I really wish you all the best with your venture.
Thank you so
I
much.
do hope that you go from strength to strength, and someday maybe you are competing with some of the big brands that are there in the fashion industry. So all the best, and thank you.
Thank you for having me and calling to this change because, like I said, a lot of it is education. So the more people we can get aware, the better it is.
Yeah, thank you. Bye. Have a
All right,
good day.
thank you. You too. Bye bye.